have new information, and there may be, and there probably is, something new that I couldn't even imagine before.
This is The Deep Dive with Adam Roa.
What is up, Deep Divers? Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Deep Dive podcast. My name is Adam Roa. I'm your host today, and we are going to be diving into a topic that was actually requested from one of my Instagram followers who saw my live on this and was like, can you please do a podcast on this? Which is how anything that you can imagine is actually a limitation. Anything that you think is possible is actually a limitation. And so I'm going to dive into that today. Before getting into that topic, I want to make you aware of the new online virtual community that I've created. It is called Create. That stands for the collective renaissance of education, art, transformation, and entertainment. It is an online virtual community that has been created in response to this coronavirus context. If you listen to my last podcast, you'll know what I mean by that. But the situation that we're all facing, where getting together in person is just not really an option right now. And so how do we continue to be in community? How do we continue to show up for each other? How do we continue to see some of the same faces? How do we continue to express ourselves creatively? How do we move our bodies? How do we get information that's helpful for us during this time? In response to that, this community has been created. There is daily virtual events and programming available for you to take part in completely free. Because as someone who's suffered through depression for many, many years, I know that a lack of social connection, a lack of physical touch, sedentary lifestyle, eating a bunch of crappy foods because they're less access to the grocery stores or whatever may be the case, all of that stuff can be contributing to depression and a variety of other just emotional distress. And so it's very near and dear to my heart that people have the ability, if they choose, to not experience that level of hardship. And so this community is available for you completely free. It is at www.thecreatecommunity.com. You can also find it through my website, adamroa.com, ADAMROA.com. And I encourage you to sign up and be a part of it. Okay, because these events are awesome. Monday open mic is one of my favorites. So yeah, enjoy it. All right. And today's topic, back to it, right? I imagine a lot of things to be possible for my life. I see so much possibility. It's one of the things that people comment to me about is you just like say you're going to do something and then you do it, because I believe I can do basically anything. If I really put my mind to it and I want it badly enough, sure. And yet I also recognize, excuse me, I also recognize that what I can imagine to be possible for myself is limited. What I'm imagining to be possible for myself is showing me the edges of what I think is possible. Everything, when what we're calling a possibility, when we say, oh, that's possible, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, I could do that, we are actually talking about my mind's ability to create a pattern. I could see that I could do this thing that leads to this thing that leads to this thing. Let's say, oh, you know what I could do? I could go and live in an ashram in India and just be a monk for the rest of my life. Okay, that's because one, I know ashrams exist. I know that I enjoy meditation and spirituality. I know that I have the ability to get an Uber to take me to an airport, to fly over to India, to do that. Like I can put all of the pieces together that allow me to say that's a possibility. That is based on everything I've ever experienced and all the information I have gathered in my entire life. Everything. And so think about before there was an airplane, someone thought it was possible to fly. Superman, right? I don't know when the timing of everything came out, but like imagine flying. Why did people imagine flying? Well, birds. It's like, okay, birds exist. It's like, wouldn't it be awesome if we could do that? We knew flying was possible. So swimming, we can swim. My point is that there are things that we may not even be able to wrap our heads around that are possible for us. And because we can't wrap our heads around it, our brain cannot actually put the pattern together to see it as a possibility. I'm going to say that again. If we don't even have the data, if it's something that doesn't even exist in our mindset, if we don't have some tangent of something that's available where we could say like a bird, we see a bird flying and go, wouldn't it be cool if we could do that? Well, if we don't have some sort of tangent of that, then our brain doesn't have that information to use in its pattern formation. And so therefore, what it thinks is possible for us doesn't include all of whatever that thing is that it hasn't had the information of. The internet, the idea of the internet has changed exponentially what people think is possible because of the speed of information traveling. If you think about maybe 5,000 years ago, let's say, the idea that you could literally send a message on something like this iPhone, you could send a message, it could go up into space, then come back down off of a satellite to someone halfway around the world, basically instantaneously. That would have been so mind-blowing that very few people could even conceive of it back then. And therefore, what they thought was possible did not include a huge amount of possibilities that we now have the ability to put into our pattern formation. So what does this lead us to? What are the takeaways from that, right? Once we understand what we're able to perceive as being possible, how that's actually just the limits, like that's the limits of our imagination, but it's not the limits of what's actually possible. The two biggest takeaways that I think are important from this are: one, continue to take in more information. Continue to learn, not just facts about what's going on around the world, but continue to learn about yourself, your own capabilities. Both of those things. Sure, we can sit. You're always learning. You're learning new stuff every single moment as your brain and your body are taking in stuff like the weather and the sounds and different things. Like, you are learning in every moment. But if you're coming home at night and you're just putting on mindless like reality TV and doing this and that aren't supportive, eating the same foods and whatever, you're not adding the same level of new possibilities to your life that you could be if you were challenging yourself to learn new things, about yourself, what you like, what you don't like, what you feel you're good at, what you think you're not good at, and about the outside world, learning through observing, watching documentaries, reading books, listening to podcasts, like all of those things. All of those things in new ways. Every time you take in a new piece of information, you've just unlocked a whole new field of possibility. What your imagination could put together as patterns for your life just expanded exponentially. And so that's one huge takeaway, is to continue learning. Another massive takeaway from this is to remain unattached to your visions. You have a big vision for your life. You have a goal. Amazing. Work towards that goal hard. Like give it 100%, working towards the vision of the life that you want to be leading. Work towards that life with everything that you can, every bit of who you are, every cell of your being. Work towards the life that you want to lead. Create that vision and be unattached to it. Because along the way, let's say it's this vision to this mountaintop that's 1,000 steps. Every step of the way, you're learning new things, you're taking in new information, and that new information may shift the mountaintop you're moving towards. By step 100 of 1,000, when you're 10% of the way to that goal, you may have learned, wow, I really don't like this particular aspect, so I don't actually want to keep going in this direction. I want to shift to over here. You may, along the way, learn, I love this thing. I want more of this, and that shifts it for you. You may meet someone, fall madly in love, and that completely, as only love can do, really turn everything on its head and make you reevaluate everything. Something like this coronavirus can just fully shift the context of your reality to a point where everything gets to shift. And that's okay, as long as you're unattached. Because if you were attached, again, the coronavirus is something where I was planning a tour of my spoken word poetry show for the second half of this year. Lots of money, lots of time, lots of people working on it. And then now all travel's halted. So the tour planning has completely come to a stop for the time being. And I could, instead of being upset about that, I say, okay, this is new information. If I'm super attached to the tour needing to happen in July, like I'm now going to be in a state of suffering and resistance and putting all of my emotional energy into something that I can't control. And yet, if I say, all right, that tour will happen, but the tour is just one step of a journey I'm taking to a mountaintop that I have. What's another step that I could take right now? It's like I'm walking on this path and there's like a giant boulder in the way. It's like, okay, I'm still going to get to the top of this thing. I'm not going to turn around and just go back. I'm not just going to sit there and give up. I'm going to find a way around it and find a new path for the time being. Amazing. That's possible. That's done with more ease and grace when it's, when the attachment isn't there. When I remain open, because I know that whatever I can envision, including that tour, was the edges of what I knew to be possible for myself. And with new information, I'm not going to the same toolbox. It's not like, oh, this was the best thing possible for me, and now I can't do the best thing possible for me. It's like, no, it was the best thing I could see possible for me at that time with the information I had. Now I have new information, and there may be, and there probably is, something new that I couldn't even imagine before that is now in my highest excitement. That is now the thing that I am going to do, the thing that I get to give 100% of myself to. And that has looked like, for me personally, thecreatecommunity.com. The collective renaissance of education, art, transformation, and entertainment. Create a community that I get to build and provide as a service for people to stay connected during this time, to feel like they have a sense of community during this time, to provide programming and a platform for so many artists and yoga teachers and sound healers and people who aren't able to offer their gifts in person the same way anymore. That's amazing. What an opportunity. So I'm going to take that opportunity. I'm giving it 100% of my time and energy and focus into that right now. That's what I'm doing. And when new information presents itself, great. I'm unattached. Being unattached to the ultimate result is not the same thing as not giving it your all. Being unattached is not the same thing as not caring. Being unattached means that, yes, this is the thing that I want right now, and I am malleable. I am willing to shift that perspective. I'm willing to adjust if necessary, along with whatever new information comes in. And I'm going to do it with a smile on my face, a skip in my step, and I'm going to dance my way through this experience. You get to do that. You get to do that and continue to learn. Enjoy it. Thank you so much for listening to this. We are in a time right now where people aren't getting as much social interaction. And so if this has been valuable for you, I encourage you to share it with someone, let them know about it, post it to your social media, leave a review on iTunes, and help get the word out about this, because this is the new engagement right now. Podcasts are a huge opportunity for people. These YouTube videos, huge opportunity for people to grow and develop. And we get to be that support for each other. I'm constantly sending videos and receiving videos from people where I'm like, hey, this was awesome. I post them to my Instagram stories. I'm like, hey, watch this. The spread of valuable information is really important right now. So I want to thank you for helping me spread this information. I want to remind you that always, in all ways, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved.